Hi everyone, this is Haishi. I'm the original creator of Project Eclipse Symphony. I'm currently sitting in my office in my home in Carnation, Washington, United States. And I'm starting this video series basically to cover topics that might interest you about Symphony. So if you're watching this and if you have some topics on your mind, please leave your comments and let me know so I can put them into future episodes. This will be unscripted episodes. Basically, I'm just sitting down, spend maybe 10-15 minutes to talk about the topic, and we'll see how that goes. I think for the first topic, I need to explain what symphony really is. Because interestingly, when I try to explain symphony to people, there are people that can immediately get the value of symphony, and there are also people who has tremendous difficulty understanding what symphony really is. So I'm trying to put it in the simplest way possible that I can think of. So essentially, symphony is a toolchain orchestrator. It's designed explicitly to address the problem of orchestrating multiple toolchains. Let's take setting up a restaurant as an example. Let's say if you're starting a new restaurant, there are a lot of things to be done, right? You need to register for your business, you need to rent the place, buy the furniture and the utensils, hire people, coming up with menu, figure out your supply chain, do your payment system, and such, right? So during those process, you need to deal with a lot of different peoples at a different time. You will be using different systems, different tools. And how do you orchestrate them together? It's in your mind, right? That's in your mental picture. What you need to do first, when you to next, etc. This is all fine. I mean, you make the effort to orchestrate those activities yourself. It's all great. But what if we think of this problem from larger scale? Let's say if you are actually building a fast food chain and you want each restaurant to be built out in a very consistent manner, then you need to take this mental picture out of your head and put it somewhere, like a document or some video, right? So that those orchestrated steps can be repeated, not by you, but by others. And this is what Symphony is essentially about. Essentially, when we talk to customers, especially large enterprise customers, uh, there's a universal challenge of dealing with multiple toolchains, right? And this is not just about the toolchain themselves, because behind of each toolchain, there could be different personnels with different priorities, different agendas, different skill sets. And you want to make sure everything eventually happen in the right order, and all the efforts made by different teams can really be combined into a bigger value. So this orchestration concern is the focus of Symphony. Basically, we're saying for a lot of large customers, if you have this need to capture activities across multiple toolchains and organize them into a predictable, verifiable, and repeatable workflow, that's what Symphony can do. And of course, I mean, if you're working in a smaller scope, and you are totally happy with a single toolchain, that toolchain can do everything you ever need, then yeah, there's no apparent reason to use Symphony. But fortunately, to our customer bases, which are mostly large enterprise customers, this seems to be a universal challenge, especially in the world of edge computing, where you need to deal with different device classes, different operation systems, different artifact format, different protocols, different tools, different procedures, different personas, etc., etc. And how you make sure all those things are orchestrated together, it's a big challenge. And what Symphony allows you to do is to model that orchestration problem as code, right? So sometimes I try to call it like orchestration as code, but I'm not sure if that's a term will catch on. But essentially, we give you this abstraction so that you can explicitly model those orchestration challenges into code. Then this means you can manage that concern using modern tools, right? You can check into the source repository. It can be version controlled. It can be validated, can be repeated, can be automated, etc., etc. Then essentially you're organizing all your scattered tools into one organic end-to-end experience for you. And this, once we have this abstraction, right, not only we can drive those tools forward and to make sure they work together, we are also uplifting the capabilities of those tools. For instance, let's say if you have a custom program that is able to flash a device with some binaries, right? That's all it does. It's a flashing tool that can put a binary onto a device. But once you incorporate that tool into the overall Symphony orchestration, all of a sudden, that simple tool can participate in much complex scenarios, such as gated deployment, scheduled deployment, fan-out deployment, canary deployment, and you have like auditing, you have aggregated view, and the whole 9 yard, right? So that simple tool, you don't need to make any modifications to that tool, but by registering that tool into the Symphony abstraction, and you can drive the overall workflow from Symphony, then this tool can participate in the much larger workflow, this end-to-end workflow. And this provides a tremendous visibility or observability into your system, right? Because individual tools, you don't have to go to different systems to understand how they're doing, because Symphony will extract tool status and aggregate them back into a single pane of glass. So you can have this centralized view, and you also have centralized control, right? Once you have the artifact, your desired state defined, you can push that out through Symphony, and Symphony at the right point will interact with that specific tool to say, hey, now here's a specific task that you know how to do, then you can do it, and Symphony will verify the result of that action, then report the status back. So this allows us to orchestrate a lot of scattered tool chains and processes together. And one obvious example I can offer is when you deploy an application that spans multiple operation systems. Let's say you have a sales point of sale system, right? You may have a Windows front end, and your backend, let's say it's in a Docker container, or even in a Helm chart that you want to deploy to Kubernetes. And that's your application. It has the front end and the back end. And currently, if you do the deployment, basically you have to manually coordinate two parts of the deployment. You need to deploy the Windows application yourself. Then you need to deploy the Kubernetes part yourself. Then you have to configure the front end to talk to the correct backend address, etc. And when you do revisioning, let's say if you have a new version, you have to make sure both sides are updated and they are coordinated. What Symphony allows you to do is to actually describe this whole application as one artifact. You can say, hey, I have this application, I have a Windows front end and a Linux backend. And when I deploy, it's one action, right? I'm deploying this application. And Symphony knows, okay, oh, this part goes to Windows and this part go to Linux or Kubernetes. Then it will set up the configuration because it has the context, right? It will set up the proper configurations so both parts are connected together. So this makes sure that your front end and back end are always in sync. And if you want to do upgrade or rollback, it all happens as one unit. So this is a very simple example, but it shows how Symphony can bring this unique value by bridging multiple tool chains together. And especially for the last enterprises, right? A lot of those artifacts or machines are offered by different vendors, and they may come in at a different time. And how do you make sure their efforts are coordinated? And what you can do with Symphony is that you can actually capture those activities in the artifact so that it can be verified not only by you but by some other vendors coming in to perform the actions, so they explicitly know what has happened and what is expected to happen. And this also gives you a layer of protection because now your orchestrated problem becomes vendor agnostic. Let's say tomorrow you want to switch to a different vendor. You want to choose a different software, use a different device. You already have the expected result captured in Symphony. And you can just simply show that to the new vendor to say, hey, this is what happened. I'm expecting whatever you bring is compatible with this. And if it's not, you can clearly define the differences so you can do adjustments to other parts of the system. So this is what Symphony is about. It's a toolchain orchestrator that help you to manage activities across multiple toolchains. I hope this gives you some fundamental ideas of what Symphony is. And I think in the future episodes, I will talk about how we design such a system, right? Because if you think about it, we're designing a system that is expected to work with everything. How is that even possible? And I think in the future episode, it was some time for us to discuss how we attempted to achieve this goal with the Symphony design. But before that, thank you very much. Again, if you have some topics you want to be covered, just let us know and we will cover them in the future episodes. Thank you.